How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? Created by we the people. Let me tell you something, folks. Now it's owned. Now it's controlled by the billionaires, but it's something that will be mitigated because we will mitigate this. We have a lot to talk about today, but before we get busy, we know we have to get busy in the studio with El Señor Howard Reynolds, Shaq Van Beva, and Mayana. Good morning, my dear people. How are you guys doing this morning?
Well, I was just grooving to some smooth jazz earlier there.
Here you go.
And Mayana's, she's missing in action this morning, so we won't be hearing from her.
Good morning, Egberto. It is Wednesday morning at the radio at the insane radio station called KPFT Houston. Wednesday the 13th of August, 2025, and we are still here, and we are still listener supported, so
those of you who want to make a donation to the Barry White Foundation, you can do that, kpft.org. We'll play you some smooth jazz and Barry White for you.
Jack's got a full page of wisdom here, so let's switch over to him. We'll stop all my nonsense.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Egberto.
Talk to me, my brother.
Looking at some stuff this morning, and D.C. is floating out there the possibility of fining and jailing the homeless. So here we go. Okay, people, here we go. Wall Street creates more homelessness by allowing real estate speculators to invest in housing market. Investors are buying up houses and holding them off the market, driving up the cost of housing and rental properties to the point where the working poor cannot afford to become or choose homelessness. And now the White House suggests homeless in D.C. be fined or jailed. This is demonizing the homeless. Wall Street is creating and exacerbating homelessness while the White House suggests fines and incarceration. My gosh, this is just one hand whitewashing the other. The investors want to make money and drive up prices at the expense of the homeless and the poor and the working poor, the old who are being priced out of their homes. The plutocrats in Washington are attempting to eliminate poverty by eliminating the poor. Watch the movie Soylent Green and beware of those green wafers.
Well, Jack, we always wondered who they were going to attack next after the immigrants. It's the homeless. It's always the weakest link in the chains that they're going to attack.
They're going to demonize them to the people, and they're going to buy this. Okay, we eliminated poverty.
Yeah, you know, the people who are the least likely to be able to survive this, they're going to attack them first because they can't fight back.
That is so right. That is so right. You know, I was listening to the president's whatever he called it, a press conference or whatever.
God,
and
how could you stand to listen to that? Well, how could you stand to listen to that? I'm sorry, I can't.
Let me tell you, I do it so that you don't have to, Howard. I do it so that our listeners don't have to, okay? You know, I take the pain. I suffer in silence. What can I say? But, you know, I listened to it, and, you know, when he included the poor in the homeless in what he was talking about, right? And he said it in such a callous manner. I just sat down there and I'm like, my God, if you are, you know, if faith hits you wrong and this is what you have to do, my God, that's all I could keep saying. My God, where is this guy's heart? And
he doesn't have one.
Exactly. He doesn't have a heart.
Well, you know, I I always try to post what FDR said. The measure of success is not by how rich people are, but how well off the regular population is. And
Absolutely.
we are not rich at all. This is a piss poor country that's just, it's falling, it's sinking. And we got a leadership that just is intent on destroying it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing about it is we can do something about it, and that is what we are going to do. We are going to do something about it. You know, we yesterday, the school starts in the Humble School District today, and yesterday you would have seen a lot of empty buses roaming around, etc. Because again, they're testing their routes and what they're going to be doing, etc. And my wife drives for the district, and yesterday she was crossing the road, and it actually made the news as she was crossing 1960 and West Lake Houston Boulevard. A white pickup truck ran the red light, raced in front, and actually jackknifed her. Okay, so she got it, and that pushed her into the lane of some other traffic, and coming the other way, and two other cars I think hit her, or it was a complicated and a big accident. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, by the way, she's okay. The reason I brought this up is that uh, after she kind of got her self together, she gave me a call, told me what happened, and then the medics and all of that came in, put her, get her in the ambulance and all of that to try to secure and take her to the hospital. What was disconcerting to me, and I didn't quite say this at the time when she was telling me that it occurred, is that here she is in an ambulance, and one of the first thing that they're doing is asking her for her insurance card, and just peppering her with questions that have to do with financial stuff when you are just in a major accident. I find that so, and I don't know about you guys, I find it so immoral that in a time when what you're trying to do is heal, you just got into an accident, you're not sure what's happening. And by the way, I'm not blaming the paramedics or any of these people, doctors, anybody. I am not blaming any of these people. I'm looking at the system and saying, there is something wrong with the system when what you're doing, when somebody gets hurt during a traffic stop or whatever, is that you're trying to figure out financing. Don't you guys out there find this stuff immoral? What I mean is, don't you find it immoral that you can't even be hurt without this economic structure having a system to first get you? Don't you find that immoral in the richest country in the world? Nowhere else do you find that the first thing you're looking for is capital when you have an accident, when you have an illness. But then, I race down. And by the way, for those who listen to the show at 3 o'clock, that's the reason you got to repeat yesterday, because I had to program that while sitting in the emergency room. Um, don't you find it immoral that even as you're sitting there in the emergency room, you have the business office calling you to verify this, verify that. Is this going to be covered by your insurance? Is this going to be covered by workman comp? What if, and you are banged up in an accident. You're banged up, and you are having to worry about this first. Think about, if you watched the news yesterday, the wreck involved four vehicles, two in the other lane, the person who hit the bus, and the bus. There are two people in that accident that they tried to take to the hospital, and those people threw their hands up in the air and said, "No, no, 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 I'm not going." Why? Again, because they know once they jump into that ambulance, the cha-ching starts, the money grab starts as soon as they do that. Good morning, Kelly's SYR. They know that starts. I tell you a quick story about KPFT. I used to do my program at KPFT at something like 9 or 10 at night, I believe, somewhere around there. Can't remember exact time. And I remember I came into the studio one night. I felt edgy and whatever, but I kept in there. And Robert, one of our state persons that's always there, Robert Gardner, he was always in the studio, all times of the day, all times of the night. He swept, he kept the toilets clean, made coffee, hassled us. He was always there. And Robert uh, gave me rather, he saw that I was kind of jittery and I just was kind of out of it. And he looked at me and he said, my girlfriend or somebody had a blood pressure machine, and he went ahead and he brought it out to the studio. Went to his car, brought it out to the studio, and my blood pressure wouldn't take. But eventually, I think it got some crazy number. But my blood pressure got to something like 240 over 140, something 150. It was crazy number. So he's like, Egberto, we got to call the paramedics. I'm like, no, I'm going home to it. And then he ignored me and he went ahead and called the paramedics or whoever it is that you call. And then they came and checked it out, and yeah, my pressure was on the roof, ready to, I probably was a few points away from an all-out stroke. Thanks to you, if Robert Gardner, I don't know if you're still out there listening. Haven't seen you in a while. Last time I saw you was at a HPJC event. But luckily, I turned back, and thanks to Robert uh, Gardner, more than likely I didn't have a major stroke because the guys came, gave me oxygen, got the pressure not in the right place, but down enough. So they're asking me what hospital to take you to. I don't know. I'm not a guy that goes to doctors, hospitals, or anything. And I looked at them and I said, how much is it going to cost me to take me to the hospital? I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 for that mile and a half or so from the studio to the hospital, okay? Or a couple of miles or so. And, you know, I'm like, and how much does it cost me if I drive myself to the hospital? The guy says, oh, nothing because we wouldn't have gone on. And by this is the city ambulance, okay? The one that comes with the fire department, that sort of stuff. So I got out of that car, I got out of the ambulance, jumped in my car, called my wife, told her that I was heading into the Kingwood at the emergency room. She's mad as hell. You should have stayed in the ambulance or whatever. I'm like, you're talking about $1,000 to $1,500 just for the ambulance, And then, so I went ahead and went to the doctor. But all on my way back to Kingwood from the studio in Montrose at the time, my thing was, my God, imagine the first thing that I had to think about was how much is this going to cost me? Health issues is something that is human. It is something that is there all of the times. Yes, you can eat better. Yes, you can not smoke. Yes, you can do a whole lot of things. But in the aggregate, health is something that affects all of us. And that we have allowed these guys to turn healthcare into a commodity in the capital markets because we're fearing that if we want something called Medicare for all, we call it socialism, like it is some bad word that we say we collectively take care of everybody in the healthcare domain. Folks, it is evil. Capitalism in a healthcare space is one of the most evil things possible. Because before your care, before anything happens to you, one has to ask the question, can I pay for it or not? The two people that left that wreck yesterday, the two people that left that work, if their head got hit, there's a silent killer known when you hit your head in an accident or whatever, that things are all fine. And then a few minutes later, or a few hours later, you get into trouble with your head. Um, we are we better start calling things out the way they really are. One of the issues with healthcare is it affects us not often when we're younger, when we're middle aged. Of course, when we're older, it affects us a lot. And that's when capitalism ran. It ran away from old people. All you old people out there that always vote for these things to take away, etc. You are the folks that were most hurt by the healthcare system until we brought that ism into the healthcare system called Medicare. And when we brought Medicare in, it wasn't because the government wanted to take over healthcare. It was because the capitalist market says we can't make a dollar on you because you get sick too often. We want the 40-year-old. We want the 20-year-old. We want the 18-year-old. Because they rarely ever see a doctor. They rarely ever go to the doctor. They rarely ever go to a hospital. They cost us nothing. We take their money and we bank it. For decades, we bank those young people's money. But when they become 70 years old, they're a burden to society. So we say no to insuring them. And when we say no, the government, using its social programs, that's called socialism. I like a bifurcated economy, one that is free enterprise, half of it is, or portions that belong in the free enterprise system, be in the free enterprise system. Portion that should be controlled by the government, those controlled by the government because it's best. And the government said, okay, private sector, okay, capitalism, okay, since you can't take the risk on Americans, we the people, all of us collectively, will take the risk on our elderly. We will, we will, we will. And then the government says we are going to collect taxes, just like you would have collected premium, called the Medicare tax, 3% every time you get paid. And what we guarantee you is after you become 65, we will give you health care. We will give you health care. Not as good as we can, because the private sector wants a little air in anyway, but we will give you health care. We will pay 80% of your health care, and your doctor will tell you what to do, and we will take care of you. We, the people, will take care of you. And then as time went on, and that program worked excellently, that program only had an overhead of under 3% to take care of you. The big bad folks in the private sector who run insurance said, hey, the government is already collecting the money. Let's make a deal with the government. Hey, government, why don't you keep collecting the money and then pay us to take care of the old people? We didn't want to take care of it when we took the risk. But now that you are collecting money from every single American citizen, 3% from every American citizen's wages, we want back in government. So we are going to be socialists. We, the private sector, we, the private insurance companies, are going to be socialists because we are guaranteed now for every person that we take care of for you, government. We take them off Medicare, government, and we now get thousands of dollars every year for the government, for every old person, everybody over 65 years. We are going to try to get them into Medicare Advantage, and we are going to pay the bills. But in reality, you taxpayers are going to make us even richer. Some of these folks stopped selling the Medigap programs, to sell only Medicare Advantage because they make so much money. They rip us off so well. That's what we call capitalism in the healthcare sector. And yesterday, like I said, the reason a lot of people don't see it is because most people are not sick 24/7, 7 days a week, 12. So we go through the pain and tribulations for the short period in a year that we're sick. For older people, it's permanent, but for younger people, we take the tribulations of the indignity of being in an ambulance and having to show your card and having to be asked how you're going to pay for this. How is this? What insurance do you have? Is this workman comp? Is this other things? You pay for the indignity of being sick, being in pain, hurting, your head hurts, you're bleeding. And folks are asking you, where's your insurance card? Where's your insurance card? Where's your insurance card? The evil of our healthcare system. And we can only change it when we get the pelotas to do it. Only when we decide to hold every single person running for Congress accountable. Will you support Medicare for all or not? You don't support Medicare for all. We need to get rid of traditional Medicare. We need to get rid of Medicare Advantage. We need to get rid of private healthcare insurance because it's a racket, it's a thievery, it's an attack on your democracy. Only then will we enter the 21st century with freedom. Because right now we are enslaved to every insurance company. Every single one of us are enslaved. I have a Amy Goodman piece to play. It's a long piece, so I'm going to take John, who is on the line, real quick, and then we have to go to that piece quickly. John, give me a quick minute, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you're absolutely right. It is your body is a commodity, and your very life is a commodity to these people, and they don't have to put up with that. The executives, they get a special break, or they get their health care paid for. And United Healthcare is headquartered here in Minnesota, but for years, they would not allow them to write policies here because they knew how greedy they were. It's just, I am a healthcare practitioner, and it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, it's absurd, and it's cruel, and we need to get rid of it. Why should we have middlemen who sit in towers and, basically deny people health care? And the same kind of things that they get and their families get, and we get nothing except frustration at the time that we're sick. And unfortunately, fortunately, most people go through their lives, they're not very sick. But those, you never know. You could be healthy one moment and have a stroke the next moment and be
Absolutely.
Have the right weight and do everything right. So we need to have a health care that assures people that when they are sick, that they don't have to worry about anything, that they can just heal. That's all.
Thank you, John. John, thank you. And let me just add to that, John. One of the reasons we do this program is to take away the lies that you hear from the private sector on health insurance. Let me tell you guys a quick few truths. That the private sector is very inefficient in delivering health care, from the complications of many insurance companies, from the complications of the separation of ambulance, hospital, all of that adds in inefficiencies the galore. When it is run by one entity like Medicare, it costs under 3% to administer the program. Don't let the private sector lie to you. It takes them no less than 18% and much more if you call in expenses that they have otherwise. It's a theft on all of us. Thank you, John. I got to move on. You have a wonderful day, my brother. Welcome aboard, Gayla Kunis, Lee Brown, Ernie Boxall, Vicky, Eileen Jardine. It's happening. Mary B, MXXS, Beth Andrews, Ingrid. Thank you all, guys, for being here. It's never happening. Thank you for being here. Mary B, John A, and Judy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And on the other chat, I want to welcome our Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, Joe from Los Angeles, California, repair team, racist participant, Lee the Bearcat. Thank you all for being here. As you guys know, I was in New Orleans for the Netroots Nation 2025, the largest conglomeration of progressive writers, developers, progressive politicians, authors, activists, all of us meeting in one place, strategizing how is it that we move the country forward with again with the progressive needs of the country, etc. And it was a great gathering. Our own Pacifica Network's own Amy Goodman was the keynote on Saturday, and got with her and did a substantive interview. I want you guys to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we're honored to have somebody very special. Well,
who's going to join us, Egberto?
Amy Goodman from
God.
Democracy Now! Well, it
Push
looks
the
like
button.
yeah. I know. I have to. I
Push
just
the
looked at
button.
this. I just looked at the signals, and I said, "Wait a minute, Amy's signal is not transferring." So I have to go find Amy Goodman's signal and figure out why the good Amy is not coming out. So I'm looking to see what signals I'm missing and seeing if I can clean that up now. Let's see if I got that going now. Otherwise, I'll have to keep talking, and I want to get to her. This is a great interview. Let's go for it. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we're honored to have somebody very special.
Who's going to join us, Egberto?
Amy Goodman from
God.
Democracy Now!
I thought the two of us were going to interview someone special.
No, come on, Amy. Amy, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
It's great. We've been pitching for such a long time on
I
KPFT.
know.
The last time I saw you was, and you probably don't even remember this, but it was at the DNC in, I think, Raleigh.
Wow. Raleigh, North Carolina.
North Carolina. You remember that?
Amazing. Yes, I do remember it. That was when there was a big story around. I remember it was all the butterflies that were the symbol. People talking about the crackdown on immigrants.
Yes.
Butterflies are free.
But it was fun. It was fun. I don't know if it was fun for you, but if I'm going to Raleigh, North Carolina, I'm going to have me a little bit of fun. But anyway, first of all, before we get into the politics, how have you been doing?
These are very trying times, as you know full well. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say in today's talk that I'm going to be doing in a few hours. It's been amazing to be here in New Orleans. Such an example. Look at Louisiana.
Right.
I think the power of Pacifica Radio, you're based in Houston. Of course, we have radio stations in Berkeley and Los Angeles, me in New York, Washington, is hearing the local voices because they are such a lesson of what's to come. We covered Katrina 20 years ago and the aftermath of it. But look, you have Louisiana, which is the incarceration capital of the country. Mm-hmm. And that's been true for years, like the Angola prison, named for the country in Africa where enslaved people were brought from, and now prison. What's happening today in 2025? What connects us in New York? Among other things, Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia student, where do they send him when ICE agents take him away from his Columbia housing, to Louisiana.
Yes.
Ramesa Ozturk, the Tufts University student, the Fulbright scholar. She actually had also gotten a graduate degree in education, teaching at Columbia. When agents descended on her and she started to scream, "I'm calling the police," she didn't even know who they were. They said, "We are the police." And then she told her lawyer that one of them said to her, I mean, she's a young person going to dinner with her friends, and these guys, masked, descend on her. She said one of them said to her, as she was trembling and crying, "We are not the monsters you think we are. We are only following orders." But that we are only following orders is something that resonates horribly for us. Right back to World War II and the Holocaust. We are only following orders, and there has to come a point where people who are given orders don't follow those orders.
That is a shame. And the thing about it is, that is where we are. And that's why, I spoke to a congresswoman yesterday.
Who did you speak to?
Delia Ramirez.
Oh, yes, from Chicago. Guatemalan immigrant.
Said, oh, yes. Great speaker, but more importantly, fearless. And what she said is, we have to stop talking about a Democratic Party, and we need to start talking about an opposition party. And the zeal with which she said that, it was like, Delia, Representative, Congresswoman Delia, you're absolutely right. We are in times that we have not seen in a long time. And first of all, one of the good things about democracy now is that you cover it. And not only that you cover it, but you cover it in the right context, unlike what we get on mainstream media. Independent media, more so than ever,
is so
the
important.
Only answer.
I mean, look, we don't bring you that small group of people that not only in Fox, but that you get on CNN, MSNBC, that small circle of pundits who know so little about so much, explaining the world to us and getting it so wrong. What we do, as you do all the time on KPFT, is bring you voices from the community. And it's that authenticity, it is the truth of people's lives explaining it themselves that are at the target end, for example, of U.S. policy, that nothing rings truer. We don't need someone else describing their experience. We need to get to them. And I think that's the power of Pacifica Radio, is the idea that it's people-powered, people support it, but that it's also completely grassroots-focused.
And I think that is so important. Now, before we get into anything with respect to the Palestinian issue, staying local for a bit, what do you see, based on the experience that you've had and what you've seen, that we need to start doing yesterday to start mitigating what Donald Trump has done?
I mean, look, Donald Trump knows the power of independent media. That's why he's gone after it. Ended CPB. After half a century.
Let me stop you a second. How do you feel about your operations right now under the Trump regime?
I mean, I'm horrified at what has happened because we are partners with people all over the country, in fact, all over the world, but all over the country. Public broadcasting, PBS stations, NPR stations, community and college stations, that are losing their funding. He clawed back the full $1.1 billion that was going to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That was signed into law by LBJ. And how sad it is that, we just lost Bill Moyers. He worked with LBJ. Yeah. He died at the age of 91 recently. And he knew that power of public media, and Trump totally understood it.
Right.
So the fact that he clawed it back and took it back, I mean, this is already allocated money, knows he wants a media that kowtows to him. He wants a media that is on bended knee.
Right.
And he'll start off by just trying to wipe out especially as much independent media as they can. But he's going after the large corporate networks, and he's going after CBS. And CBS is going along with him because they're
Gave him the 16
with
million,
Paramount wanting to make that deal with Skydance. Skydance, the dear friends of Donald Trump, the allies of Donald Trump, and in order for Sherry Redstone to get the $1 billion, she has to make a deal. So it has to do with something that is so highly unusual. CBS's 60 Minutes edited an interview with Kamala Harris. Edited, like we all do. Editing is like breathing for radio and TV. And he said, this was a violation of him because they tried to make her look better. Why? Because she had allergies and she was sneezing during the interview, and they cut that
silly.
out. So they never would have succeeded. They never would have succeeded. And so it didn't go. They didn't let it go to trial because I am sure CBS would have won. But she just worked out a settlement of something like $16 million.
$16 million.
That was worth it to her because she wanted to sell CBS Paramount to Skydance so that she would make the fortune she made. So that was a small price to pay for her, but it's a huge price to pay for independent media.
It is a shame. Now, so the only mitigation that we have right now is what we're doing, the resistance. And I love that, I've met a whole lot of Democratic young politicians. Notice I qualify on the young ones that are fearless in actually challenging Donald Trump. A lot of our ingrained establishment, I'm sorry, they're not doing the job. I don't know if you feel that way as well.
I think it's absolutely critical that people stand up, and that's across the political spectrum.
Right.
This doesn't serve Republicans either to pass a bill, what many call the big ugly bill, the tax and spending bill, that means that millions upon millions upon millions, 17 million people are going to lose their health insurance, 12 million of them Medicaid, that also triggers Medicare cuts. This is terrifying. There are already so many people in the streets, sleeping in the streets. It doesn't benefit anyone, especially the most vulnerable, of course, but for people to be so vulnerable and for that vortex of all the money going from the bottom to the top, tax breaks to the millionaires and the billionaires. And we have to this is why we need media that will tell the truth. At least we need the politicians that will tell the truth too, but really explain what's going on.
It's interesting because the people who voted these guys in that are taking their money away are the ones that are going to hurt the most.
Oh, yeah. And, already MAGA is splitting. They're splitting over the Epstein scandal.
And it's a good thing. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you've been covering quite a bit. You've been covering Palestine and what's occurring there. I consider that, I don't know about you, I'll let you speak for yourself. I think this is a genocide, and I also think this is something America is going to regret later on as being a complicit.
Look, it's not only you who is calling it a genocide, it's the majority of international human rights groups. The majority of Holocaust scholars, we just interviewed the Israeli-American scholar Omer Bartov. He's at Brown University, who was called by the Holocaust Museum in Washington the leading Holocaust scholar, right? I mean, he said it's hard to find someone, a serious Holocaust and genocide scholar, who is not describing this as a genocide. Now, it's interesting, we're here in New Orleans. I was just speaking with one young activist from the West Bank to the West Bank. The West Bank here in New Orleans. She's a Palestinian-American family. She says, call me a Palestinian New Orleanian. Family that moved. She was born here, then they moved to the West Bank. Then they came back to the West Bank here and described her experiences in both places. The number of journalists, Palestinian journalists who have been killed is horrifying. It is the largest concentration of journalists killed in the smallest amount of time, any time in history.
Yes.
More than 200 Palestinian journalists. We cannot underestimate their bravery. If they're not being shot, if they're not being crushed in a bombing, if they're not starving to death, and you watch them on places like Al Jazeera, on Democracy Now! Getting thinner and thinner. This is a horrifying, shameful moment in history. Now, I think that the international public opinion is shifting. The grassroots, it has been going on for a long time. What, in Australia, I think
Right.
300,000 people
amazing.
protested. In London right now. And to have Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, to have Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, to have French President Macron, all of them saying they're going to declare a Palestinian state. You have Israelis, you have the hostage families who are telling Netanyahu to stop his war. You have the head of the Israeli military who says this is a catastrophe for him to expand the war in Gaza. We have to show what's going on every day. We have to show what's going on with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, so-called the shadowy Israeli U.S. foundation that's taken over the work of the United Nations that coordinated 400 aid sites. Now we're down to 4, and it's less than that. And when people go to those aid sites, as Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders says, they would see the flyers coming down, go to this aid site now, and then they would immediately be inundated in their clinics with the number of people shot. In the last months, more than 1,000 food seekers, hungry people, children and adults being shot down as they desperately tried to get food for their family. This idea of famine spreading across in 2025 in the modern world, this man-made famine. So we have to show the images every day. And if Netanyahu says there's no starvation here, okay, open the gates to the journalists, to the international journalists, and then you can prove it to them, because you can say you will not find starvation. There's a reason he doesn't allow in international journalists. They're killing off the local journalists, and then he doesn't allow in Western journalists.
It is a shame. It is a shame. Well, look, I know your time is valuable. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh, you asked me really good questions, Egberto. How long have you been at KPFT?
At least 15 years on air.
And why are you there?
I am there because we need a KPFT. We need an independent station. We need a station that owes itself just to the people. The people that support us are the people who listen to us and allows us to reach others. I always tell the people who donate to organizations like ours that they are supporting the country in many ways. While they are donors, they're ensuring that so many others can hear truth that they'll hear nowhere.
Right, and they're
else.
keeping KPFT on the air for someone who can't afford to pledge, but maybe in a year will be able to pledge.
Yes.
How important it is to have this people-powered media. And with the history of KPFT, goes on the air in 1970, the transmitter immediately blown off by the Ku Klux Klan, goes back on the air, blown up with 15 times the dynamite. In the same way as what we're seeing today, there's a reason they tried to get rid of your station, and yet so many decades later, KPFT lives.
We're still there.
Not only survives, but hopefully will thrive.
Absolutely, mate.
You're right.
Yes.
Yes, I'm trying to make the universal
She is trying to
greeting
make
this,
sure
and then I
that she
forget.
gets nothing when she comes here to New Orleans. Nola, look, let me tell you, it's always my pleasure to be with you. It's always my pleasure
mine
to talk to
too.
you because you do a whole lot of good work.
And it's an honor to see you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All of our country's problems.
Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go ahead and go to the phones right away. Patrick, sorry for keeping you holding that long. Come on in, line number 1. Come on in, Patrick.
Good morning. That wasn't a problem at all. I love Amy that you ask her a closing question and then all of a sudden you're being interviewed. She's she's a dynamic woman.
I mean, I know I didn't know if everybody was. I left that in there, right? Because I wanted folks to see that, and you caught it right away.
Yeah. Um, wanted to call. You're getting a little bit of pushback by calling people Führer and referring to the Trump administration as Nazis. I wanted to talk about that just for a minute.
Please do.
In the past, George W. Bush was accused a couple of times of being like Hitler because of Gitmo and things like that. But the majority of the left pushed back very hard on that, and they would say things like, "You don't want to use that example because it's extreme, it's hyperbole, and it just doesn't fit." And people got rebuked for it over and over. That doesn't happen with Trump. I wanted to point that out. I also want to point out that numerous scholars, historians, political scientists, actually military scientists, linguists, are all making the comparison. It's not just you. I mean, these are dozens, if not hundreds, of very educated people that haven't made this accusation towards anybody else. So I wanted to kind of make a comparison, or at least maybe justify why they might think that. And what that would take is a analysis of fascism and what other fascist leaders have done that Trump is doing. And the first one that kind of pops out to me is he's trying to control our education, and he's trying to control our media. That was something that Hitler did. The next thing that Hitler did, that Trump did, is he tried to divide the nation. He said that the agrarian society or the farmers were the echelon of the middle class in Germany, and he pitted them against the people in the city. The people in the country were more Protestant, and they were more conservative. They had their idea of what marriage was, their idea of what relationships were, and everything. And the cities were a little more progressive. They pitted themselves against each other, and later on, that actually rose to a point where there was violence on violence between citizens. There's a name for that period, and I forgot it in Germany, but that was very evident. Another thing was he militarized the police. The brown shirts and the stormtroopers look exactly like the ICE. And when he did that, his people, the Germans, lost their right to habeas corpus, to any representation. People were just kidnapped. And the people that were first kidnapped were the people that the Protestants thought were kind of deviant. They were the trans. They were people that had relationships with other people of their same gender. That they were demonized. That's exactly what's happening now. When it came time to adopt another group, it was the spiders, which were the Jews, and they were responsible.
Patrick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with all of that, and I'm glad you say that. Let's continue the enumerations later on because all lines are full. And by the way, Beth Andrews says this gentleman caller is correct about what happened with Hitler. Thank you for that chronology. All right, we'll continue later, my brother.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
You too. All right, Donald, come on in. I'm going to kind of go quicker now because we're out of time. Come on in, brother Donald.
Yes, sir. Hitler had a struggle. Now, welcome to America, Egberto. If you remember the movie John Q with Denzel Washington, that was a call for people to see the other side of the equation on our healthcare system.
Yes, you're a genius.
And
yes.
Also, too, with the Indian scalps, Palestinians, and we start looking at this land grab, which I told you when this stuff started, there's going to be a trail of tears. They're following our motor apparatus exactly how to get those people off that land. And that's
Amen.
all I got.
Thank you, Donald. You're a smart man. Derek, come on in. Line number 4.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Donald. Fine. Yes, sir. Quickly, you know, the disturbing thing I heard from what Amy Goodman had said was that that person going to say to her, "We're not the monsters that you think we are. We were only following orders."
Oh
Well,
yeah.
what if you're following the orders of Beelzebub? What are you gonna say when you laying up in your bed at night and you dying from what's that called, PSAD or
Uh,
whatever they call it?
yeah, PTSD.
It's very ugly, bro. Yeah, it's very ugly. That's all I call to say.
Thank you, brother. I'm glad that you picked up on that, Derek. I got some smart listeners. You take care, brother. Let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
You know, the very next thing I was waiting to come out of your mouth or Amy's mouth was to point out the progress, if you want to call it, that was made not too many years ago when that guy showed up at KPFT in the lobby to the front door in the middle of July or August wearing a long Clint Eastwood-style duster. And I looked at that and I thought, oh, God, I think one of us needs to call 911. And before we could do that, he slams a brick on the receptionist's desk and he pulls out one, two, three, four $100 bills. And then he apologizes, basically, saying that at one time, many years ago, he would have been one of the people to throw that very brick through the glass at
Yes.
KPFT. And so he's showing respect and thanks for us being even-tempered and truthful.
Thanks for reminding. Hey,
Speaking
Johnny.
of truth, when the ACA came into law, that overhead you refer to, that 18% that's now, it was over 30%. And God
Yes,
knows
it
how high
was.
it is right now if it hadn't been for the ACA. And they
But
want
let
to
me tell
creep
you, Johnny, here's the funny thing. It is still that same 30%. They just found a way to turn that 30% in other types of expenses that falls through the crack in the way the legislation was written. But Johnny, let's continue this tomorrow because I still got calls,
Okay.
brother. But you nailed it. Let's go to
Okay.
Jimmy, brother. Jimmy, come on in.
Much for bringing us the interview with Amy Goodman. The best part is about Gaza. People are starving in Gaza. People are being shot when they go to get food in Gaza. That's all on Netanyahu. Netanyahu is an evil, sadistic man, and we need to point out that he is the guy in charge of all the starvation and deaths in Gaza. Netanyahu is a bad guy, and we should not be supporting him in any way. We need to condemn his evil, sadistic way of dealing with the people in Gaza.
Thank you, dear Jimmy. As usual, smart commentary. Have a wonderful day, my dear brother. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks. Let's the last subject I do want to touch on it a bit, and that is Donald Trump yesterday. Well, it's based on an executive order signed previously, but now the White House is going to vet the Smithsonian exhibits to ensure they align with Trump's interpretation of U.S. history. In other words, Trump wants to rewrite American history. Look, we as a country have a history. Some not so good, some horrendous, some very good. That can be said of any country, absolutely any country, from Great Britain to Angola to Nigeria to every single country. We have good parts, bad parts, mediocre parts, etc. But unless we know all parts of it, we can be fooled. One of the reasons Americans are so keen on being able to do evil to our immigrants, why they are able to do so much evil to other things, is because we don't know our history. We don't know what we have done in those other countries that have ineffectively caused the migration here. You cannot not know this stuff and come up with the opinions that many good Americans come up with, which is somehow this is an invasion. It's really the other way around. You can't you can't hate on another folk and call another folk lazy when it is the policies that are out there that created such behavior. You can't call those, I mean, it is what Trump is trying to do at the Smithsonian by taking or put in history that is only patriotic, that makes us feel good, is not the answer. The biggest love for a country, the biggest love one can show for a country is to acknowledge what it needs to improve and do what's necessary to improve. If you have a child that have done wrong, what you do with that child that have done wrong is you correct that child. You love that child nonetheless, but you correct that child to make sure it does right. Brian, line one, real quick.
Yeah, have you or anyone seen the wall between Gaza and Egypt? And why doesn't Egypt or Jordan take in the refugees?
I'm not going to discuss that right now. Netanyahu is killing, murdering, and maiming Palestinians. I am not going to allow anybody to take the mirror off of what Netanyahu is doing because you want to claim there's a wall between Egypt. No. What is occurring in Gaza is genocide. Thank you, Brian. You have a wonderful day. We're not going to change. We're not going to change the discussion. We're not going to allow smoke and mirrors at all. There's a genocide occurring in Gaza right now. There are people that are forcefully starving. There are people that are being killed. Over 200 journalists were murdered by a country. If this had happened in the United States, if this was an American citizen, if this happening to the rest of the world would be reacting. Let me pass it to the studio.
Oh, I've already had my rant for the day. Jack, what you got?
You're not going to be able to see the truth about Gaza for 5 or 10 years when Gaza becomes an oil field.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and
and right in the middle of it is going to be the Middle Eastern Riviera by Trump.
There you go. There you go, folks. That's so true. That is so true. Anyway, folks, so please keep in touch. Remember, the rest of the program is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can also go ahead and write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. You know, I love you guys, all of you, absolutely all. That's how we make change. Thinking you are my brother, you are my sister, I am my brother and sister's keeper. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your